Welcome, everyone, to Mondays with Michael. So good to be with you. A warm welcome to all. Whatever platform you're viewing us on, please introduce yourself. We'd love to hear from you and where you're calling from, what area you're in, any questions you have, things you wanted to share with the group. All of that is welcome. And if you're on our Zoom link or our watch page at michaelgaeta.com/watch, feel free to ask questions. We'd love to hear from you and take any questions you have. So, a warm welcome. Actually, this is a live show, so stuff happens when you're live. So, waiting for today's guest, but I'm gonna move forward and introduce the guest and a couple of things to his own thing because he is in Australia, but hopefully he'll be along soon. Anyway, a warm welcome to everybody. So I'm going to jump into, got a few things prepared for you today and a few announcements for today as well. And so we're just going to jump on into that. Okay. Okay, off we go. So again, so glad you're with us today. This is an offering of the Gaeta Institute here, as well as with the clinic. Our motto is nature first, drugs last. And again, there's nothing wrong with pharma drugs, but they're massively overused, and there's a natural solution, at least minimum 95% of the time. So welcome to show number 310 for this April 6th. I've got the wrong date on here. So there you go. This is like Saturday Night Live, but on Monday. Sometimes there it is, April 6th. There you go. Welcome to our show number 310 for April 6th. And also happy Easter to all. Today is Easter Monday. And if it's something that you celebrate, I hope you had a great Easter with loved ones. I certainly did. And happy Easter to all. So this is show number 310. Hopefully, with our guest, Charles Coves, who I am going to introduce. And otherwise, I've got I always have some things to talk about, just in case something like this happens, which it has once or twice before over the last 6 years. We are well into year 7, and thanks to all who've been with us who are just joining us for the first time, or folks who were with us in the early shows on the immune system, basically. And actually, the show was called Natural Immune Support for Today's World. It was a COVID immune system, a couple of classes on that in the beginning, March of 2020. And here we are today into our 7th year. So wonderful to be with you. So I was on today's guest, I was on his show, Charles Coves. I'm going to read you a little bit about him. On his show 247, I'll give you the link here to his to that exact interview. I thought it went really well. It was a great conversation. He's just an amazing man. He's very accomplished and just very passionate, which is kind of his brand, so it makes sense. And just a great guy. So I'll introduce him with the assumption that if you build it, they will come. And I'll introduce the guests so that they appear. But I just emailed him, and hopefully he is awake and checking email and remembered our show today. I'm sure he did. But I'll give you this link in the chat now, just so you have it. And worst case, you can you can watch the interview I did on his show. But anyway, there's the link. I'll also add this to our watch page if you're joining us on the watch page. Great to see you there as well. And we'll be able to take questions there as well. That's one of our main spots for people to view the show. And all right, so a little bit about Charles Coves. What a great guy. Really delighted to, oh, wait a minute, is this him? Okay. No, okay. We kind of wished it was. But anyway, Charles Kovess is a wonderful guy, and he is a former tax attorney. If you can imagine that, he was a tax attorney for 20 years, very successful, and felt drawn and to another path. And so he gave up his very successful tax law practice and became, what he is today, which is a very successful corporate consultant and executive coach and speaker, and written a number of books, which I'll tell you about. And just a really passionate guy, as I hope you'll be able to see. And that really is kind of his brand. So he was, again, a successful tax attorney. He left law many years ago to become a professional speaker, author, and corporate problem solver. Charles has provoked, enthused, and inspired companies and individuals to achieve world-class results by harnessing passion. And he is known as Australasia's passion provocateur. That's a cool title. He is the president of the Australia-Hungary Chamber of Commerce and Industry, trustee of the Global Energy Network Institute, CEO of an industrial hemp processing machinery manufacturer, board member of the Kids Foundation, chairman of the Australian Institute of Comedy. If you can imagine that, that's pretty. He's a pretty Renaissance guy here, and past president of Professional Speakers Australia. Charles has authored 2 inspirational books. Passionate People Produce. That's his famous one. That's his best-selling book, Passionate People Produce. Before that, he wrote Passionate Performance. He co-authored one of the chapters in the 7 Heavenly Virtues of Leadership. And he also created a very successful course, 7 Steps to Create Great Teams, for the International Institute of Directors and Managers. If that wasn't enough, he competed in triathlons for 34 straight years, completed 9 marathons, played A-grade amateur soccer, what they call football, and is the father of 5 children. Is one of the world experts on passion. He knows why passion is your unlimited source of energy and how it is linked to your ability to generate great results. So that's hopefully hopefully today's guest, and a little bit about him. But what a wonderful guy, and he's really enthusiastic about this subject of helping people find their potential by helping them find their passion, and doing that for corporations as well. So that's a little bit about him. A couple of announcements, and then I'm hoping he will appear by the time that. Otherwise, we've got lots to talk about today. Otherwise, and but he's going to have to wait till September to get back on the show because we have such a packed schedule. That was one of the announcements. Got a remarkable slate of guests coming up for you in the weeks ahead. So with that, speaking of upcoming awesome things, we have, there's the show. Now you have the link to that show where I was just a couple of weeks ago on his podcast, and we had a great conversation. So, and yeah, if you haven't introduced yourself on any of the platforms, please do so. And anything you want to share with the group related to our typical subjects, a little detour today, trying something a little new off of our typical subjects of natural health and health freedom. But natural health includes enthusiasm and passion and well-being. So hopefully we'll have a guest to talk to us about that today. And if not, he'll be back. All right. So anyway, this is Charles at charleskovess.com. I'm kind of guessing from one of the associations he's president of that he is of Hungarian descent, perhaps. That seems like a Hungarian-esque last name, maybe. But anyway, he is an attorney with additional advanced degrees in law, and but he left that world a while ago to pursue his passion of helping others find theirs. So anyway, we at some point today or another time, we'll be talking about how passionate people produce great results. And I'll also, yeah, and then during the conversation, I'll share with you his books and things as well. So, so that's that. And then also, wanted to let you know we've got some pretty remarkable stuff going on this month with the school. And as always, put your questions in the Zoom chat or the watch page. Coming up this Wednesday, you do not want to miss the awesome, my good buddy, fellow herbalist Charlotte Keichel is teaching class 2 and 3. I did class 1, we recorded it, so you won't miss anything. Peeling Back the Layers, a deeper look at skin conditions. And she's going to be teaching this Wednesday, class 2 and class 3 on the 22nd. So just go to the course page, michaelgaeta.com, and you will see that course right at the top, which is, we had a great class 1, and Charlotte's amazing, and she's going to talk about the internal and mental emotional causes of skin conditions, as well as some herbal and inner work approaches to that, as well as topical herbs, which is a big subject, and she's really good at it. So use your Mondays with Michael discount code MWM10, and please join us for our skin health course. Also coming up next week is a very different type of course for us here. This is not a typical kind of holistic health, natural functional medicine sort of course. This is a course on the history of modern medicine, how what we know today as modern medicine is a very, kind of pharma-oriented system by design. And Dr. Stephanie Thomas is wonderful. She calls herself the anti-pharmacist, having gotten her doctorate in pharmacy. She left that world to help people heal naturally. And so Medicine as Myth, the untold story of modern medicine, power, paradigm, and the possibility of change, coming up next week. So you have time to enroll. Class, it's a 2-class course. Use your discount code. That's going to be amazing. She was on the show last week, talk a little bit about it. She did an hour version of this at our annual practitioner retreat, and it was amazing. Kind of blew people away. Getting to the history of Rockefeller medicine and this petroleum-based system of medicine with pharma drugs. So Medicine is Myth coming up next week. Please join us for that. It's going to be fabulous. And then just to give you another heads up, next month we have the world expert on headaches, the capital T, the world expert on headaches, author of The Headache Advantage, and he's teaching a course going even deeper than he does in his book of the same title. Dr. Scott Verzal, a new faculty member for us here at the school. He's been on the show a number of times. But wow, this guy is brilliant. He's so smart and a very successful nutrition clinician and chiropractor. So please join us for the Headache Advantage. 7 classes starting May 5th, so just in a few weeks. Use your discount code MWM10. We still have an early bird going on for this course. And if you or anybody you know has headaches, this is designed to be a self-help course, but meaty enough for sure. If you're a clinician, a practitioner, you'll learn plenty to apply to your patients. And I'll certainly be taking lots of notes to learn because I see patients with headaches all the time. So it's going to be a very great course, really looking forward to that. So that's that. And then we have, I'll be speaking in a little over a month at an herbal conference. I haven't spoken at this one before. I'll be giving 3 presentations on black cumin seed, Boswellia serrata, and herbal adjuncts to chemotherapy and radiation. So that's going to be, and the faculty for this symposium is amazing. So please, you get a 15% discount on this whole conference in the beautiful hills of North Carolina and the Blue Ridge Assembly, where I last was in 1992, taking a week-long liturgy conference with Matthew Fox when I was a church organist. So it'd be great to return there. Don't remember much about it, but I remember it was really nice. As always, you can recommend any of our courses, and we'll be happy to send you a thank you referral fee for that. If you haven't had a consult with me in the last year, it's time to do a checkup, a functional medicine and Chinese medicine checkup, and review your labs, your diet, your lifestyle, your protocol. Make sure you've got the correct health protocol with diet, lifestyle, supplementation, herbal medicine, and all that good stuff. Make sure we're not missing stuff, which happens all the time. When I see a new patient, we do a basic set of lab tests, and wouldn't you know, they have all kinds of issues nobody knew about before, and their regular practitioner had not found. So that's an important thing too. Finally, coming up in August, you have plenty of time. If this is practitioner only, our 11th annual Love, Serve, and Succeed retreat and intensive at the gorgeous Sunrise Ranch Conference and Retreat Center, an organic farm, grass-fed regenerative ranch. Most of the food you're going to eat is grown on the ranch, and it's incredible. And it's just an amazing gathering each year, really wonderful. If you haven't taken our board certification program in functional medicine, please do. And you will get 2 certifications and up to 4 from completing our program. All right, so that's that. And that's all of our announcements. I want to get into something today. Oh, yeah, Dr. Kwan, I'm with you, Sydney. That was amazing. I learned so much from that, Sydney. Dr. Kwan was amazing. So, and if you missed that show, it's on the watch page. And we talked to the super awesome author of Let It Flow. The whole book is on microcirculation and blood flow. And wow, what a great, I mean, blew me away. I learned a lot, which is not, the default thing. And I learned a ton from this guy. Really shifted my paradigms that I had had for some time. So pretty remarkable. Anyway, so let's move on. First thing I wanted to start with today. Looks like we have a time zone issue with our guest. My apologies. Yeah, it looks like we've got a time zone issue or something. Hope he's okay. But we will get him rescheduled for September, which are, or August. Well, no, September. Yeah, we're full for August, I think. Anyway, we'll have him on as soon as possible. But now you know how great he is, and you'll have a leg up, as they say, on everybody else when we hear from our guest. All right, so we're going. Here we go. So a couple of things. Just wanted to share with you that I've been kind of fascinated with and interesting things that I've found in the last little bit. And what I'd like to start with today is a bit on the health side. We've had so many great guests that really haven't had a chance to go deep into that. So one thing I've been very fascinated with is a subject of something that's occasionally called a gland, meaning part of the endocrine system, but alternately referred to as an organ because it does organ-ish things. And I first learned about this, oh boy, 37 years ago in school, when I first started studying health things while I was working as a musician. That was 1989. And I learned about this thing, and I learned about it as a gland, that it had functions. And oh, sorry, Sabine. Yeah, I hope not. I hope he's not having technical issues. I haven't heard from him on email, so I assume he's like asleep or something, because it's quite a time difference between Colorado Mountain Time and Australia. So, yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, wow, look at that. We just got our guest booked for August 3rd, so we do have time in August. This is the Dr. Mark Girardot. Girardot. I'm massacring the French pronunciation. I don't do French too well. Um, this is the physician the scientist who was recommended to us by Dr. Peter McCullough. And Peter recommended to Dr. Girardot that he come on the show. I didn't know that, but he did. Really thankful for that. And was very thrilled when he reached out and talked about. Oh, he's a citizen scientist. Here we go. But anyway, it's a little bit of a preview. It's not going to be till August 3rd, but I'll give you the Substack, his Substack, and this is one of the sources that Dr. McCullough recommended on the show. And there you go. So you can look forward to him. He just confirmed like 2 minutes ago for August 3rd. So looking forward to that. Okay. All right. So what I'm talking about, I'm kind of being mysterious here in the beginning, is the thymus, alternately known as a gland and as an organ. And what I learned in school was wrong, and I think what everybody learned in school back then was wrong, that the thymus gland is very active in children as the immune system is developing, and then shrivels up and stops working and goes dormant after that in adulthood and basically stops working. This is completely untrue. And what I wanted to share with you today is just what I've been studying recently about the importance of the thymus gland. If you haven't been with us, this is my Bobby Kennedy mug, which I have a personal connection to this quote. There's been no time in history when the people censoring free speech were the good guys. And as some of you know, 3 years ago, our entire school was censored, deplatformed, and taken down by our hosting company because they didn't like what we had to say about vaccines and COVID. Even though most of our faculty are doctors of different disciplines, these woke millennials in Brooklyn decided they knew better than our faculty and just took our whole school down. So thankfully, we have a great team and we survived the censorship and are now on an uncensored platform where that can't happen again. Anywho, let's get into the thymus gland. So first of all, I wanted to just give you some basics. This is it's considered part of the immune system for sure. And it sits, if you divide your sternum, your breastbone, into three parts, it's the upper third. It's behind the upper third of your breastbone. And what we call T cells, or sometimes called T lymphocytes, and there's many different types of T cells, they get activated, developed, matured, specialized as part of what we call the adaptive or acquired or in part antibody-mediated immune system. The thymus gland has a role to play in that. And maybe as a good way to get into this, it probably would be good if we reviewed what the 6 parts of the immune system are, because this gland is kind of important to the immune system. And typically, we just talk about the old 2-box model, as it's sometimes called, of innate and adaptive immunity. And this is, it's kind of cool because this is how we started this whole show, is with this idea of looking at the immune system. So let's do that, and let's look at these 6 areas of the immune system, and then you'll understand where the thymus gland sort of fits in. And this is just very fascinating to me. So what I learned in school and what they're still teaching today in various healthcare schools, medical school, acupuncture school, chiropractic school, naturopathic school, whatever, is this good old 2-box model of innate and acquired. And actually, I'm gonna make it red for Easter. There you go. With today's tie is my Easter tie. I sometimes pull out on patriotic occasions as well, like Labor Day and other Memorial Day and Veterans Day. But anyway, this is the old 2-box model of the cellular or innate immunity and the acquired or adaptive immunity. Now, one of the stupid things that is taught in healthcare programs is that babies don't have an immune system because they don't make antibodies. This is completely pathetically absurd and beyond wrong. It's completely false. We're told that babies don't have an immune system. And by the way, I spoke at a conference in a naturopathic conference, 300 naturopaths, one of their biggest annual meetings in the Northwest. I was in Portland. And massive gathering, most of the naturopathic schools are in the Northwestern US. And I was on a panel. I talked about vaccines in the morning for 90 minutes. Totally freaked everybody out. And then sat on a panel in the afternoon with an immunologist who did her post-grad work at Yale, helping develop vaccines, loves vaccines, and tragically is the immunology instructor at these naturopathic schools. So a lot of the doctors in the room, this was their teacher when they were in school. And she even said it on stage, babies don't have an immune system. I'm sorry I'm getting off on a tangent here. I get a little annoyed when I hear this nonsense. And I know why they do this. The only reason anybody says babies don't have an immune system is they're trying to sell vaccines. Because babies do not make antibodies. They don't have an acquired or adaptive immune system until about 1 year old, according to the immunologist and others. And so if you equate antibodies with immunity, immunity equals antibodies, antibodies equals immunity, which is absurd, then anything that stimulates antibodies, that's a vaccine, by the way, strengthens your immune system, which is also absurd. But that's why they sell that lie, that you don't have an immune system other than your acquired or adaptive. Okay. Anyway, I digress. Oh, and by the way, and I talked about this on Charles's show, I think, in all 50 states in the US, in every state law and health statute, they even call antibody levels, antibody titers, positive antibodies to something, proof of immunity, which is really ridiculous. So, because there's 6 areas of the immune system. So anytime anybody ever tells you that antibodies equal immunity, if you don't have antibodies, you're vulnerable. If you do have antibodies, you're protected, and babies don't have an immune system, they are either lying to you, or more likely, they were lied to, and are just hugely misinformed. Anyway, this is what we learned in school. You have cellular immunity, which babies have, and you have a gut microbiome, which babies have. Babies have all of these things except one, and they still say babies don't have an immune system. PhD immunologists are taught this nonsense in school, and they just repeat, they regurgitate this lie in order to sell vaccines, because vaccines only do one thing, is temporarily stimulate antibody production to synthetic or altered proteins, so-called antigens. Anyway, I mention this in part because this is where the T cells, in part, it's not all they do, but one of the things they do is they help to specialize antibodies, T cells, which then become, some of them become B cells, which are the antibodies. They help that whole process out. So T cells fit into this box of the two-box model. But remember, you also have 4 other areas of your immune system that nobody talks about because it upsets the apple cart of the vaccine cult. If you are a member of the vaccine cult, there aren't 6 areas of the immune system. There's only one, and that's antibodies, right? That's part of the vaccine dogma, is that the only immunity that you have are antibodies. Forget about your cellular immunity, which includes your skin and mucous membranes, phagocytes, most important part of the immune system, natural killer cells. That's partly how we don't have cancer. That's part of our cancer resistance in part, but other things too. Complement proteins, which you can measure in the blood, C3, C4, C50. You can measure complement proteins to gauge how your immune system is doing. And then you have the T cells fit into the adaptive immunity. You have your gut microbiome, 3 to 4 pounds of gut flora. They're everywhere, but mostly in the gut, in the large intestine. Enormous part of the immune system. Your nervous system, mostly your brain, has its own immune system called the glial cells and the microglia. Then you have an interferon system. Why do they call it that? Because these are a class of about 20 cytokines or signaling proteins that interfere, hence the name, with the ability of viruses to replicate or copy themselves. That's what we used to think. That's all it did, was it interfered with viral replication. We now understand the interferon system mediates or manages the relationship between the cellular and adaptive immunity, where the cellular immunity presents pathogens to the adaptive immune system. And the relationship, the teamwork, the cooperation between the cellular and adaptive immunity is mediated, regulated, modulated, adjusted, optimized, fine-tuned. I'm just a thesaurus today, folks, by the interferon system. So it does a lot more than just mess with viral replication. Then finally, we have a neurotransmitter system called the endocannabinoid system. This has gotten a lot of attention in recent years with the arrival of CBD products, cannabidiol products, and THC, which is a psychotropic aspect, the CB1 psychotropic aspect with cannabis, and then the mostly immune activity of the CB2 receptors in this neurotransmitter system, which are particularly concentrated, interestingly, in the spleen. You know, the highest concentration of CB2 receptors in the spleen, which is also a part of the immune alliance, as John Courtney, Dr. Royal Lee's right-hand man, who carried on standard process product development after Dr. Lee passed away in 1967 from his second stroke. after the government betrayed him. Anyway, that's another great story. Remind me, I'll tell you sometime. But anyway, we have a lot of CB2 receptors. This is why CBD products, formulas that are often THC free, so they don't have a psychotropic effect, are very beneficial for modulating inflammation and benefiting the immune response. So that's a much more holistic view of the immune system. Now, our topic today is the adaptive or acquired immune system. So, with that overview, we can look a little bit more at the thymus. Okay, just checking if our guest is here. And let me just see if he replied. Yeah, I think he's asleep. It's quite a bit earlier than now, and it's basically the middle of the night in Australia. Oh, well. All right, we'll get him back. So, thymus gland. More on that. So that's just sort of where it fits in the overall immune system. So it has two lobes. And by the way, all of the endocrine glands are two. There's two parts to all of the endocrine glands except the pineal. So we have a posterior and anterior pituitary gland. We have two lobes of the thymus, two lobes of the thyroid. We have two adrenal glands, right, left and right. We have two parts of the pancreas, head and tail. We have two gonads, male testes or female ovaries. There's two of those. There's two of everything, or everything is in two or in two parts, except the pineal, which is one. And that's our connection upward. As in chiropractic, at least traditional chiropractic philosophy, which I don't think they teach anymore in most of the schools. It's kind of gotten corrupted by reductionism in some cases anyway, just like naturopathy. There is cosmic intelligence that enters the body through the crown, the pineal, and then is disseminated as innate intelligence through the nervous system. And the traditional foundations of chiropractic care, which they still teach in at least a couple of schools, is to free up the flow of innate intelligence through the nervous system and to remove interferences to the flow of innate intelligence through the nervous system, which originated as cosmic intelligence, which entered the body through the crown and the pineal gland. Anyway, nice little, interesting side quest on that. But anyway, the thymus gland or organ, it has a gland, it has an organ function, which is its immune function. And that has to do with maturing and specializing T cells so they can target pathogens but leave the body alone, not attack the body. And then there's an endocrine feature, which has to do with hormone production, as with any of the endocrine glands. And the hormone of the thymus, one of them, is called thymosin. Thymosin is the hormone that supports T cell, named for the thymus, T is thymus, T cell differentiation and immune function. So we used to think, now this is also the gland from a spiritual perspective most related to the heart. And so the thymus gland is the biggest and most active in childhood when the heart, our emotional and feeling realm, is wide open. And so the idea that it stops working is kind of absurd, but it does have less activity, but once the immune system has matured, but also the thymus does need to down regulate a little bit to protect the heart. And children who have a over or for their age, an overactive thymus gland are very sensitive, and may not develop a sense of being able to filter outside influences, and they just take everything in. Sometimes that's what it is in children who don't develop the ability to kind of guard their heart from negative external influences, which should happen as a child matures. And so that's maybe what they, that should happen by puberty or so, roughly. But older children, young adults who are not able to filter what comes into the heart, sometimes that's related to the thymus gland. So anyway, that's a little bit about the thymus and even the kind of spiritual aspects of the thymus. And let me see if I can rustle up for you a decent picture. So this is, oh yeah, this is decent. Let's see if this works. Well, yeah, okay, we can start with that. That'll be all right. Yeah, so this is, okay, yeah, that's about right. This is not a literal image. This is a computer image, but this one gives you an idea of where it is. You'll see here that, and this is what I was talking about, the thymus sits right above the heart. It's kind of the guardian of the heart emotionally, but also sits above the heart physically between the left and right lobes of the lung. And it's not imaged here, but this is well, it actually goes down about here. This is the sternum, and it's in the upper third. It's behind the upper third of the sternum, the breastbone. And one of the reasons I believe that 50% of patients who have open heart surgery, where they literally take a saw, it's like the most brutal, invasive, primitive, medieval surgery imaginable. They saw through the breastbone, the sternum, cut it in half, crack the ribs open. This is what's protecting the heart and the thymus, and just break that apart. 50% of folks who have open heart surgery develop pretty significant clinical, moderate to severe depression. And I think it's because their heart and their thymus was so violated by this ultra-invasive surgery. Now, I'm not saying this should never happen, but when possible, and this is a big thing now, is they can now go in sort of, arthroscopically or remotely and do heart surgery through 4 little holes that they can insert instruments through in the chest. I'm not sure exactly where they would go, but there are, in some cases, it's possible to do heart surgery without cracking the chest open, which is very preferable. Physically, the trauma is unimaginable, and as well as emotionally. But anyway, that's where it's located. And perhaps I can get you a more, yeah, this is, yeah, I don't know if we have okay, well, this is okay. Just to give you an idea of the 2 lobes, we can get you some 2 lobes here. This is what it looks like. Again, this is a computer image of what it looks like, but you get the idea. There's a left and right lobe, just like the thyroid. There's 2 parts, and so as I said, the pineal gland is the only single gland, and that relates to the biblical quote, if thine eye be single, thy body will be full of light. And that relates in part to the pineal gland. And having, but also the pituitary is, vision, sight, third eye, all of that. But the pineal is one, and that's because it can't be divided as it receives the divine or cosmic influences through the pineal gland and into the body. The most mysterious gland we have is the pineal. We know the least, easily the least, about the pineal gland. Anyway, so next, now that we got a little bit of an idea, just an intro to the thymus, wanted to give you just some of the current research on this, which is just fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and how important the thymus is. Again, what we were taught in school was that you really didn't need it after puberty. It helped your immune system develop as a kid. It was very big and active, and then it shriveled up and stopped doing anything once, by the time you got to puberty. And this is just utterly false. So let's look a little bit more about some kind of the current research about the thymus gland. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not a good picture. They kind of messed that one up. Anyway, all right. Let's look at some of the what I really wanted to get to on this subject, which is stuff I've been thinking about and just reading the current literature about the thymus. So first one is a very amazing paper, and I'm going to give you the link to this paper in the Zoom chat, and I know many of you are on our watch page, so you'll see it there too. If you're on our watch page, just type in a little hello, and if you're on our Zoom link, a little hello. We'd love to hear from you. And here is the first paper I wanted to look at today. Well, I mean, what unplanned, but what I've been reading about, what I've been reading today or recently, the last month or so, and to get a deeper appreciation of the divine design of the body, specifically related to this incredible organ/gland. So this is published in the most prestigious scientific journal in the world, which is like 150 or so years old, Nature. So this was thankfully full text open access. This just came out, let's see, 3 weeks ago. So it's pretty current. I occasionally send one of my mentors, Mark Anderson, brilliant nutrition guy, keeping the Royal Lee teachings alive in the modern day. Amazing. And I occasionally send him research I come across because I'm reviewing hundreds of studies every month for our courses, including our cardiovascular, cancer, and autoimmune courses. And so I sent him a study that I thought was amazing on autoimmune disease. It just came out. And the paper had just come out 4 days earlier. And he wrote back, he said, "Thanks, Michael, for the study, but next time, could you send me something more current?" It came out 4 days early. So that was we both grew up in New York. And he grew up in a very posh, part of Long Island on the North Shore. I grew up in Queens, very middle class. But we share this kind of New York sarcasm thing, a style of humor that is somewhat sarcastic from time to time. So we both got a kick out of that. Anyway, could you send me something more current? The paper came out 4 days earlier. Very funny. Anyway, thymic health consequences in adults just came out in Nature. And it's a big one. I'm just going to look at the abstract for today. The thymus is essential for establishing T cell diversity early in life, undergoes profound involution with age, mostly by puberty, and therefore has traditionally been regarded as largely non-functional adults. That's what I learned It's completely false, but that's what I learned. Here we propose that preserving thymic functionality is integral to adult health and longevity. We developed basically an AI framework to quantify thymic health from routine radiology images and evaluated its association with longevity and risk of major age-associated disease in two large prospective cohorts of asymptomatic adults. So they looked at the National Lung Screening Trial with 25,000 people. That one is less famous than the uber famous, like incredibly famous, Framingham Heart Study. And they pulled about 2,600 people from that. In both cohorts, thymic health varied markedly, based on imaging across the population. In the National Lung Screening Trial, higher thymic health was consistently associated with lower all-cause mortality, reduced lung cancer, lower cardiovascular mortality over 12 years of follow-up after adjusting for various factors. Now, in the Framingham Heart Study cohort, now, by the way, the Framingham Heart Study has a lot more than 2,500 people in it. It's been going on for decades, and there's tens of thousands of people in the Framingham cohort. Higher thymic health was significantly associated with reduced cardiovascular mortality. That's wild because it's considered part of the immune system, not part of the cardiovascular system, independent of age, sex, and smoking. Thymic health was further linked to systemic inflammation, which is a hallmark of all chronic disease, and metabolic dysregulation, which generally refers to insulin resistance and glycation damage and mitochondrial dysfunction, and associated with modifiable lifestyle factors, including smoking, obesity, and exercise. Together, these findings reposition the thymus as a central regulator of immune-mediated aging and disease susceptibility, not just infectious disease, but all chronic disease susceptibility in adulthood, highlighting its potential as a target for preventative and regenerative strategies to promote healthy aging and longevity. Wow. Wow. That's a big wow. Major wow. Now, the good thing is, at least in what we do here of natural functional medicine, this is improvable and supportable. We can actually help the thymus gland optimize itself. So, by the way, if you look at, when you dive into these stats a little bit, this was insane. This was 12-year follow-up. The overall death risk with better thymic health was 51% less. 51% lower mortality risk, hazard ratio, sometimes called a risk ratio or odds ratio, often. But that's crazy. So the risk of dying from all causes was reduced 51% in a 12-year follow-up. That's remarkable. We can't really say that about many things. But this thymic health does appear to do that. Now, beyond that, they looked at the Framingham Heart Study, high versus low thymic health. This was even more dramatic. I hope you're sitting down. I am. Look at this, a 76% reduced risk of all-cause mortality or death. 76% reduction in those who had a healthy thymus gland, according to their measurements. That's insane. I haven't found anything that has been like documented to do that. That's remarkable. So then they got into lung cancer, 36% reduction in lung cancer risk with good thymic health. Then, yeah, and so this was just consistent across the board. Lung cancer death reduced 30%. That's remarkable. So you see the differences here are enormous and dramatic and validated. Like they all got to 95% confidence interval, or CI, or p-value of 0.05 or better in most of these measurements, meaning it had to be that and not something else. That's pretty remarkable. Then it goes on. The risk of cardiovascular death in the high thymus group was reduced 63% less cardiovascular death. High versus low thymic health. That's astounding. Then they had, and then it just went on, and that was the lung group. In the Framingham group, this was just insane. There's a 92% reduction in cardiovascular death. 92% reduction. Hazard ratio 0.08. That's a 92% risk reduction in cardiovascular death in the Framingham heart group. That's like ridiculous. I mean, what? I mean, this is really astounding. So then they didn't just look at death, they just looked at cardiovascular disease in general. 74% reduction in cardiovascular disease, not death, in the high thymus health group. That's incredible. So, and it was isolated to be the thymus. It wasn't age, it wasn't gender. Yes, there's only two. It wasn't lifestyle. It wasn't other things. It was the thymus. Just remarkable. So they looked at all kinds of things, and it just goes on. I mean, inflammation, metabolic disease, all of these areas, and they, and oh yeah, they also quoted another study that just came out recently, finding that when they removed the thymus gland, people died faster, had more cancer, and had other side effects. So they looked at people who had a thymectomy, right? Because occasionally, it's very rare to get thymus cancer, but it does happen occasionally. It's pretty rare. And they removed the thymus gland, and people died of cancer and everything else sooner, which was pretty remarkable. So anyway, this is an awesome study, but not the only one. Next up, this paper also just came out, also in Nature. It looks like it was Thymus Week at this journal. Let me give you the link here on our watch page. If you're on our watch page, say hello. And if you're on our Zoom page, say hello. If you're on any of we're streaming to about 10 different platforms and pages, please say hi. And let me find, here's our Zoom chat. I'll get this over here. Yep. And Dr. Hinder's taking Immuplex every day. Yeah, I've been doing that for 30 years for good reason. So you'll see. And now I'm definitely not stopping, even though it's been 30 years. I wasn't going to stop anyway. But wow. So thymus health, this is just a, let's see. Oh, no, that was what we just did. Yeah. Is a predictor of lifelong well-being and immunotherapy effectiveness. And we only get a short little bit of the first paragraph of the abstract, so it's not much. But what they found, we were able to squeeze in the last sentence. The authors identify thymic health as an indicator of healthy aging and whether immunotherapy for cancer treatment is likely to be successful. That's an important sentence. So, big deal. Immunotherapy is part of the renaissance happening right now in oncology because chemotherapy is so horrendous and ineffective in almost every case, doing much more harm than good, that thankfully immunotherapy, typically checkpoint inhibitors, imagine you're driving your car and you want to go faster, you could disconnect the brake pedal. and so you only have gas. You just go. You can't stop. That's what the checkpoint inhibitors do, which is a common form, not the only form, of immunotherapy, which is designed basically to amplify the immune response, the immune system, so that the body can fight cancer better on its own. That's how former President Jimmy Carter, who did a lot more good after he was president than while president, he was able to survive for decades after a diagnosis of terminal brain cancer, inoperable. He went to Europe, I think it was Germany maybe, and had immunotherapy. The brain cancer was gone in 2 months, and he lived for decades. He passed away not that long ago at the age of 99. And he was much younger when he was diagnosed with terminal, inoperable, you have weeks to live brain cancer. Quite a story. And that partly put immunotherapy on the map. Now, it has side effects. Risk of autoimmune disease goes up because immunological tolerance breaks down when the immune system is chronically stimulated. That's one of the ways that vaccines cause autoimmune disease, is through chronic immune stimulation. So there is an increase. We know that there is an increased risk of that. And then this is this is a related paper I wanted to give you. Here it is. Thymic health and immunotherapy outcomes in patients with cancer. So clearly, this issue of Nature that just came out a few weeks ago, the March issue, the most recent issue, was all about thymus gland. And this is groundbreaking stuff. This is amazing stuff. Not different than what Royal Lee was teaching in the 1940s and 50s, but it actually, obviously has evolved in specificity. But there it is. And they point out immunotherapy has revolutionized cancer treatment, and many patients still experience limited benefit. Of course, immunotherapy is founded on unleashing T cells, which are part of our immune resistance, along with natural killer cells and lymphocytes. Most existing biomarkers remain tumor-centric and mainly overlook host immune competence. The thymus is a key immune organ that is crucial for T cell maturation, and they theorize this is science begins with a question. All science begins with a question and continues with observation. And their question was, hey, maybe the function of the thymus affects immunotherapy outcomes. And here we show the thymic health, and looking at radiology to assess that is strongly associated with immunotherapy outcomes across several cancer types. Meaning, if we can support the thymus, I'll tell you how to do that, then you will have better outcomes with your immunotherapy. So they looked at a bunch of different patients, bunch of different cancers, 3,500 people getting these checkpoint inhibitors, ICIs, immune checkpoint inhibitors, the most common, not the only form of immunotherapy. That's what President Carter had, were checkpoint inhibitors, I think in Germany. And what they find? They found reduced risk of cancer progression, reduced all-cause mortality, and they found thymic health associated with better T-cell activity, better immune system signaling. That's partly through the interferons, by the way, in part. And they suggesting using radiology imaging, which is going to be, potentially sonogram, probably more MR, I would think, MR, magnetic resonance imaging, probably not a CT scan, but maybe. Probably, I would guess, more MR and sonography or ultrasound as a proxy for thymic activity and adaptive immune competence. Remember, it's one of the 6 boxes, 6 aspects, areas of the immune system. And they found the same thing with every cancer they looked at. Together, these findings identify thymic health as a previously unrecognized tumor agnostic. Wow, I haven't heard that. I think that's a new term they coined. Tumor agnostic, meaning all cancers, determinant of immunotherapy efficacy. Wow. And of course, they're saying we need drugs for this, which we don't. But wow, and then that's basically this paper. We kind of got the idea. They just go into details with better outcomes with immunotherapy in folks who had a healthier looking thymus on sonography. So pretty remarkable. They had mortality risk in one group reduced 33% in the good thymus group. In folks with chemotherapy, a form of chemotherapy, death risk reduced 38%. And so it's typically in the 30s in terms of percent improvements in survival, which is astounding. So anyway, it goes on like that. You can read the whole paper. It's full text, yay, for yourself. Now, the other paper I came across was pretty awesome. I'll give it to you in the chat. Coming through on the watch page and in the Zoom chat. This is a paper on, let's see. Oh, there it is. Yeah, we'll do that. And then here it is. This was published not in Nature, but in European Radiology 11 years ago. This was, I'm thinking, some of the earlier papers that led to some of the current research that we've been looking at today. Normal thymus in adults, appearance on computerized tomography, CT scan, basically a fancy X-ray. The appearance of the thymus on CT, so I guess it is CT is one of the imaging they used. So they had 2,500 healthy folks, average 59 years old, and they looked at CT of the thymus with a 4-point score. And very interesting, 74% showed complete fatty replacement of the thymus. That's bad. That's a 0 score. Mostly fat replacement. That was 7%, 18% of them. Half fatty replaced, and then solid thymic gland. So they, based on how much functional thymus they had compared to fat. And what did they find? Very interesting. Smoking and being overweight were associated with advanced fatty degeneration in the thymus. So this is a short abstract, but they found smoking and being overweight messed with the thymus and decreased its functionality. Kind of like other tissues will get fibrosis, replacing functional organ tissue with scar tissue. This is replacing thymic tissue with fat, and that's not ideal. So there's that paper there. And then I think we have one more, possible, no, two more to look at. And let me give this to you on the watch page. And then we'll talk about, well, what can we do to help? And there's a lot. And it's simple. And it's inexpensive. And it works, which is the main thing, that you can actually help people and you help yourself. And so that's all a good thing. Oh, I see this goes. Yep. Okay. And then we'll have some time for your questions as well. So this is variations on a theme. We've already looked at this in the previous paper, but we'll look at this as well. Briefly, this was published in the journal Blood back in 2009, and it's the same thing that we just saw in the more recent paper from 2015. Obesity accelerates thymic aging. This is full text, yay, but we're just going to look briefly at the abstract. So basically, this was an animal study, and what they found, the obvious stuff, which was obesity increases risk of infections and cancer, suggesting adverse effects on immune surveillance, which is one aspect of the thymus, the differentiation and maturation of T cells. And this paper concludes that obesity compromises T cell generation, including premature thymic degeneration or involution. Diet-related obesity reduced thymocyte, those are thymus cells. Thymo means thymus, cyte means cell. Thymocyte counts, and increased self-destruction of developing T cells. That's not good. Obesity accelerated age-related reduction of T cell degradation, basically, and a reduction in memory cells. That's what vaccines rely on. And so this is an animal study, mouse study, and the news was not good that being overweight, and they found this also in people, progressive weight gain, fat gain, with or without diabetes, compromised thymic output. Collectively, these findings establish that obesity constricts T cell diversity by accelerating age-related thymic involution or degeneration. So that's pretty big. Finally, this is a 2018 paper published in Aging Cell. I'm sure you all have a long-standing active subscription to Aging Cell from the Anatomical Society. This is full text, open access. Yay, we like that. I think all studies should be full text, open access, but you know, they have to pay the bills too. I get it. Anyway, this is our last paper on the subject, and we'll talk about what we can do. And we'll just look at the abstract, and we'll see if we need to go past that. So, and this is 2018. So this is 8 years ago. It is widely accepted that aging is accompanied by a remodeling of the immune system, including thymic atrophy, an increased frequency of senile or not that functional, tired, T cells, leading to immune compromise. However, physical activity, which influences immunity, but often declines dramatically with age, is not considered. So this paper starts with a question. All science begins with a question. And the questions never end, by the way. And that's why, we've said here many times, there's no such thing as settled science. And no such thing as scientific consensus. As soon as you have settled science, so-called, you no longer are in the realm of science. You're in the realm of something more like a cult. We see this with climate change. We see this with vaccines. We see this with statins. You're not allowed to ask questions. And as soon as you stop asking questions, you stop doing science. Science is the act of asking questions. As the brilliant Nobel Prize-winning physicist from Brooklyn, who sounded very much Brooklynese, Richard Feynman, said, I'd rather have questions that can't be answered. I'd rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. Oh, yeah, he would be pretty annoyed at what was going on today with the climate scam and with the vaccine scam and with the statin scam and the cholesterol scam and others. But anyway, their question in this paper was, hey, since the question was, does exercise affect thymic health? And let's take a look. That's science. We ask questions continually. And the other point was, we've heard this thing, scientific consensus. Usually this non-term or this nonsense, you hear the term consensus, scientific consensus, associated with the climate cult, that human-generated carbon dioxide will end all life, or at least end human life on Earth, because it's causing catastrophic, apocalyptic global warming. That man-made CO2 is cooking the planet, and we're all going to die within 8 years, and that was 12 years ago, from man-made CO2. And we have to institute basically communism to switch out of life-giving fossil fuels and life-enhancing, human-thriving, enhancing fossil fuels, which is really the only moral choice, into these ridiculous so-called renewables. And by the way, little tangent here, but hey, it's a live show. Fossil fuels are highly renewable. The planet is always making more oil and natural gas constantly. It's not old dinosaurs. That's absurd. There's an unlimited supply of fossil fuels, which is good because it's the main source of human thriving, and populations that have been suppressed from advancing have been denied access to fossil fuels, like in many parts of Africa, for example. So anyway, it's part of the climate scam, is that man-made CO2, which accounts for 3% of the 0.03% of total gases in the atmosphere is CO2. It's vanishingly small. The vast majority of CO2 is generated by non-human activity, over 97% of it, at least. So, driving an electric car, which is the worst solution to a non-existent problem you can imagine, doesn't help the planet at all. Makes things a lot worse. Same with windmills and batteries and all this type of stuff at scale. Anyway, I digress, but that's okay. So let's get back to this study. I know how we got there, which was they were asking a question. That's what science is, asking questions, making observations, and then keep asking more questions. So they asked a question, does exercise relate to thymic health? So they looked at 125 folks, my age, 55 to 79, who had maintained a high level of physical activity, in this case, cycling, for much of their adult lives. Then they looked at 75 age-matched older adults and 55 young adults not involved in regular exercise. That was clever. They found a bunch of folks who stayed active throughout their lives, and a bunch of folks older and younger who did not remain active physically. And what did they find? They had more T cells in the physically active folks, and the folks who were more active also had more interleukin 7, IL-7, which protects the thymus, and less IL-6, is a very famous interleukin or cytokine, which is a strong inflammatory marker and marker of chronic disease, like cancer and cardiovascular disease. You do not want lots of interleukin 6. And that inflammatory cytokine or signaling protein aggravates thymic atrophy. The physically active folks also had less immune aging. That's what echinacea does, by the way. Taking echinacea every day reverses the aging of the immune system. So then, and they had more regulatory B cells. There are B regs and T regs. They had more of those, which also helps to prevent autoimmune disease. So it didn't protect against all aspects of immune aging, but many. We conclude that many features of immune aging may be driven with reduced exercise, physical activity, with age. So there's an easy one. Stay physically active. Remember Jack LaLanne? He recommended, as I do, partly based on that, but also having read dozens of papers on the subject, 3 to 4 hours a week, about a half hour a day, seems to be the sweet spot. And he recommended that back in the 1950s. He said, get out of the house, take a walk, or do some type of physical activity, 30 minutes a day. That seems to be the sweet spot. You can do more, but ideally not a lot less. So anyway, that's what this paper was all about. So what do we do to support the thymus? Well, there's a few things we can do. I just want to mention a couple of things that can make a big difference. One of them is one of my favorite minerals, which is zinc. Zinc is a cornerstone nutrient for the thymus. It is an essential mineral for the thymus. Now, this might explain in part why people with good zinc status have a whole lot less cancer. And cancer patients who optimize their zinc status live longer, and their cancer is more likely to go away. And folks who have good zinc tend not to get cancer or get cancer less, as well as type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune diabetes. Did you know that the beta cells, the insulin-producing beta cells in the endocrine tail of the pancreas, under your ribs near your left elbow, the islets of Langerhans, have these B cells that produce insulin. These B cells are the only cell type in the body that have a gene expressed for transporting zinc. It's called zinc transporter 8. It's a gene unique to the pancreatic beta cells that make insulin. So that's pretty amazing. Also, other nutrients that are essential for the thymus includes vitamin A, which is best found in liver and animal foods in general. So cod liver oil, organic grass-fed beef or chicken liver, for example. Supplements that contain liver, great sources of vitamin A. Another good nutrient for the thymus. Another one is selenium, secondary mineral for the thymus. And finally, the C complex, vitamin C complex, which is not ascorbic acid. That's a lie. Ascorbic acid is not vitamin C. It's one tiny part of the C complex. Most important part of the C complex, according to Dr. Lee, was tyrosinase. It's a copper-bearing enzyme necessary to metabolize tyrosine, which becomes our thyroid hormone, and our catecholamines, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and dopamine, are all made out of tyrosine. And you need tyrosinase, found in the natural C complex, to use tyrosine for these hormone production, these water-based, amino acid-based, water-soluble amino acid-based hormone, like thyroid hormone, for example. So we have zinc, we have selenium, we have vitamin A, we have vitamin C. Complex, again, not the synthetic isolates, not retinol palmitate. That's synthetic vitamin A, really bad idea. But the whole food sources of vitamin A are what I'm referring to, for sure. So also, there are certain formulas, supplementation, that are very helpful for the health of the thymus, by the way, which include many of these nutrients that we've been talking about. So let's go look at that, and then I want to get into, of course, herbs. But again, the herbs basically work on top of the nutrients. You need good nutrition for the herbs to work. So the nutrition is the foundation, and the foundation of the nutrition is the diet. But if you had to pick one formula, just one, for the thymus, it's a pretty easy choice. It's a very obvious choice. Dr. Henders talked about it here. And yes, the fat, well, I haven't really evaluated that, so I can't say that absolutely for sure. But it's possible that the fat replacement of thymic tissue might possibly be reversible. I really don't know, but it's a great question. And here's the link you were asking for there, Dr. Henders. And let's look at this formula. It's remarkable. And I'm so thankful to one of my teachers and a good friend, Joseph Antel. I have a very personal relationship with this formula. called Immuplex. And if you notice here, this is one of the oldest immune support supplements in the world. It came out, actually, no, not this particular one. Oh, no, this is not correct. It's not 1984, it's 1981, I believe. They may have that wrong. Or maybe I have it wrong, but what I've read previously is actually 1981. Anyway, this is a John Courtney formula, and it supports what we call the immune alliance, which includes the liver, spleen, bone marrow, and thymus. So if you look at this formula, you'll see, should be visible here, the link is in the Zoom chat. And it was many years ago when I first heard about standard process. It's on the watch page as well. That this was 1996. So 30 years ago, I started using standard process after my first six years of practice using high-dose synthetics, because I hadn't even heard of standard process. I thought vitamins were vitamins and didn't matter where they came from. And, I was studying, reductionist functional medicine, focusing on high-dose synthetics instead of food source nutrients. Big mistake, but I didn't know any better until I did. And a chiropractor friend said, oh, you should, start looking at the real vitamins. I said, what's that? He said, standard process made of food. But anyway, if you look at this formula, you'll see, and I think it came out in 81, but they're saying it's 84, one of those two. But there's the zinc, there's the A, there's the C, and there's the selenium. So all four of the vitamins and minerals we talked about today are in the Immuplex. Now, when I met Joseph in 95, he came and heard me lecture, teaching a course at the acupuncture and massage therapy school where I was teaching in Long Island, New York College of Health Professions. He, I don't know if some of you may know Joseph, but he was looking for an event space to hold classes in. And he's like, well, I need it. It should be in Long Island. And this was in Syosset at the time, starting in 93. And let me see if I can rent a classroom from them to do study groups in once a month. And he was just wandering the halls, checking it out. Class was in session. And I didn't know this till years later, but he heard me teaching. And this is, my third year of teaching, 1990. I started teaching in 93. And this is late 95. And so I haven't been teaching that long. But he was just walking through the hallways. We usually kept the doors open when we were lecturing. And he heard me teaching and he stopped. And he listened for a long time. And he, he, I guess he liked what he heard. And he reached out to me and connected with me. And I think I may have reached out to him as well because my chiropractor friend said you should know about standard process. But anyway, at the time in 95, I was getting these very frequently recurrent infections that appeared to be viral. And I was just getting sick all the time. And he said, well, take this formula, Immuplex, every day, 3 a day. And since that time, I stopped getting these chronic infections. My mouth, all around my mouth, I looked like a clown. I had deep, intense, bright red all around my mouth. Now, in Chinese medicine, that's stomach heat. In Western medicine, that's a viral issue. And he said, take 3 Immuplex a day and don't stop. And immediately, like the first month, within a month, I stopped getting these frequent recurring infections. So I recommend this formula all the time to patients at typically a therapeutic dose of 6 a day if they have an immune issue, and 3 a day, what I've been doing for 30 years myself, most days, preventatively. So, and you'll notice what's in the formula is zinc, right? And selenium from a food source, and liver is a source of natural vitamin A. And there's also some C in here. They have a little bit of the synthetic ascorbic acid, very little, but there's other like food sources of vitamin C in here. This really isn't a vitamin C formula, but look at that. It has the thymus protomorphogen and the thymus cytosol, which is the cell fluid. So that's one of the 4 organs of the immune alliance, along with the bone marrow, where our white cells come from, and red cells and platelets, the liver, and the spleen, along with the thymus. That's the immune alliance. So again, 3 a day preventatively, 6 a day therapeutic dose, and this is very successful. It's a very successful formula. Now, folks who have thymus problems, and this, more immune challenges, including cancer, for example, I will typically add Thymex, because there's only a little bit in the formula, and Thymex, and it's not really a preventative formula, it's more of a therapeutic formula, anywhere from 6 to 20 a day. And this is a wonderful, works very quickly. The thymus cell fluid, or cytosol, which is a thymus nucleotides, which are tiny amino acids and peptides, same thing, from the thymus. Came out in 1957. So they rolled together, John Courtney combined Thymex with thymus PMG. Let me get this into the chat. Here it is. And thymus PMG into the Immuplex, just a little bit. But I'll use separate thymus PMG, 3 to 6 a day, and separate Thymex, typically 6 to 20 a day, based on the patient, for folks who have specific immune challenges. And it works great. It's just a wonderful thing. Dr. Lee also talked about this formula, thymus PMG, for any hyperglandular activity, overactive glands, hyperthyroid, for example, hyperadrenal, hyper whatever. The thymus would calm that down. Oh, here's Dr. Henders, our Colorado chiropractor. Thymex is part of what saved my dog's life. Wow, amazing. So this is very practical stuff that we can apply right away. Now, for vitamin C complex and vitamin A complex, which are the 2 nutrients, we have a few options. The ultimate option for vitamin C, again, complex, very important for the thymus, is Cataplex C. I typically take about 3 a day, just preventatively. It's a whole food vitamin C complex, as you'll see here. Adrenal, nutritional yeast, Hey folks, sorry about that. I just lost internet and I'm tethering the computer through the phone as a hotspot. So that may be a little sketch in terms of stability. I'm going to shut down some things I don't need that might be eating internet. Okay, that should help. And yeah, apologies for the interruption there. Want to make sure. Yeah, looks like the recording is still on. Okay, so let's finish up our deep dive with the clients. And want to check one thing, make sure Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Um, yeah, all kinds of internet problems here. Not sure why. Maybe the oncologists are upset at what I'm talking about. Had a shutdown. No, I'm kidding. But sorry about that. Thanks for your patience. And I am going to reduce. Let's see. No, that should be fine. Okay, so this should be okay. Shut down a bunch of things that are using internet so that we have the best possible connection. Okay, there's that. All right, so that should do it. Okay. All right, at least for now, this should be okay. Can everybody, I just need chat. Can you see me? Is it visible? All of that. And can you hear me? So folks can put in the chat. That'll be a big help. And okay, that hopefully will do it. Okay. All right. There it is. Okay, so anyway, let's bring this home here and finish up this discussion of the thymus. And it's very interesting. There is an herb named for the thymus, and it's called thyme, Thyme, as in parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. And so it's probably an herb you have in your kitchen. And we have the evidence that this herb definitely supports the thymus gland. And it also is a respiratory antiseptic and expectorant. So that was B1. In formulas, we have two MediHerb formulas, Resco and Broncheffect, respiratory formula. We're going to have to wrap this up because we have just an unstable internet. But anyway, Imuplex at 3 to 6 a day is a basic nutrition. Um, my opinion is echinacea would be the ideal thymic support on the herbal side if you had to pick one thing. And then thyme in the diet. And then we have all these great other options, astragalus, thyme, echinacea on the herbal side, C complex, A complex, so it's cataplex C, cataplex A, and cataplex AC. And as well as thymex and thymus PMG, all excellent supports for the thymus. And regular exercise and avoiding being overweight. All these things are great for the thymus. All right, before we drop out again, thanks everybody. I don't think I'll risk playing the piano this week, but I will play piano for you next week when we have internet connection. Thanks, everybody. Blessings to you and yours. Will see you this week for our skin health class, and next week for our Origins of Modern Medicine history class and beyond. And there it is. All right. Blessings. Okay. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.